this theorem. And a theorem in geometry is a proven fact that they did some studies, they tested, they looked at this, they went through all the rules and definitions of things, and they found that if a line bisects the vertex angle of an isosceles triangle, so the vertex angle would be the top, well, the angle that's between the two congruent sides, the vertex angle. So if a segment bisects the vertex angle of an isosceles triangle, then the line is also a perpendicular bisector of the base. That means it will come down and hit at a perpendicular, and that that half itself will be cut in half. Does that make sense? Okay. So how does that help me with my new rule that we are going to work through in special right triangles? We did 45, 40 right triangles. Now we're going to come up with the rules for the 30, 60, 90 right triangles. So if this angle here is 30 degrees, what's the angle next to it? 30 degrees. What does it make this outside triangle? What shape then is that outside triangle? What special kind of triangle is this? An equilateral triangle. How come? Because all of these angles are 60 degrees. Therefore, all of these sides are congruent, right? Okay, so if I call this side here a value, let's say, I'm going to actually do it with numbers first. You don't have to write this down, just follow. I'm going to draw this same picture, and then we're going to do some math. Okay. This is a 30, 60. If I call this side here 10, what's the side over here? 10, okay? And what's this whole bottom side? 10. What's half of that? 5. Perfect, okay? So what I've done is I have just taken out or made a new triangle, a new right triangle, and I'm going to redraw that one. Again, you don't have to write this stuff down, but I'm just going to pick up this triangle and I'm going to take it out. So I'm going to make it bigger to look at. So we said this is 10, and this is 5, this is 60, this is 30. Do you see what I did? I took this triangle, picked it up, and pulled it out. Are you all right with that? Please find the missing side. How can we do that? Yep. Are you putting pressure on it? Yeah, she is. Sky, what kind of person are you? Okay. Okay. How can we find it if we don't know? Exactly. Pythagorean theorem. Remember we learned that? If you have two sides of a right triangle, you can find the third side of the right triangle. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. What kind of equation can I set up with this? 5 squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. Let's do the math. 25 plus x squared equals 100. X squared then equals what? $75. How did you get that? Are you magic? How do we get 75? Subtract 25 from both sides, right? Okay, beautiful. And then what do I do here? X equals square root of 75. All right, I need to rationalize this denominator, so I'm going to do my division. Remember rationalizing or not rationalizing the denominator, simplifying the radical. Do you remember doing that? How do I go through that process? Does 2 go in there? Does 2 go into 75? Not evenly. Does 3 go into 75? Yes. How many times? 25. Does 3 go into 25? Nope, so I move to the next one. Does 5 go into 25? Yes. How many times? 5. So how do I write this? This pair is 1 out, radical 3 in. So this x is 5 times the square root of 3. Now I want you to take a look at these things. Look at their relationship to each other, all right? And I'm going to change the side. I'm going to set these aside. Let's kind of take a picture or think of this mentally in our brain. I'm going to change the side length. What then if this side is not 10, but 12? How does that change everything? What's this side? 12. What's the full length? 12. If this is a midpoint, what's half the length? 6. I'm going to take out this triangle, and I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to take out that triangle. This is 60. This is 30. This is 6. 12. X is what I'm looking for. I need to find x. What's my equation? Six squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. Help me with the math. What's 6 squared? 36. What's 12 squared? 144. Therefore, x squared is what? 108. How'd you get that? 144 minus 36. And then x is what? Square root of 108. I've got to go through that process again and simplify my radical. So I'm going to simplify the radical. Here we go. 108. Can I divide it by 2? Yes. What do I get? 54. Can I divide that by 2? Yes. What do I get? 27. Can I divide that by 2? No. Can I divide it by 3? Yes. What's 27 divided by 3? 9. Can I divide that by 3? Pick my pairs. How do I write this? 2 times 3 times the square root of 3, or I heard somebody saying it, 6 times the square root of 3. I'm going to write this over here. I'm going to put my other triangle next to it. Look at those. Does there appear to be a pattern? Do you see a connection? Do you see something that is not exact same numbers, obviously, but things that are the same? Yes, sir. Yeah, it's got the same square root in it, and that square root is the square root of 3. Just like the 45-45 had that connection with the square root of 2, the 30-60-90 has the connection with the square root of 3. And so now let's put it on our notes. The general rule is, if I know this length down here as x, how do I get this long side here? What's the relationship between 6 and 12? 2x. How do I get this middle line here? X times the square root of 3. That is our 30-60-90 rule. And in fact, if you look down here, they show it one more time with S being the side. So in a 30-60-90 triangle, the length of the hypotenuse is twice the length of the shorter leg, and the length of the longer leg is square root of 3 times the length of the shorter leg. How do I know S is the shorter leg? How do I know that S is the shortest leg in this triangle? Yep.
It's the smallest number.
Okay, why?
Because
It's across from the smallest angle. Remember that rule that we talked about? So S has to be the shortest side because it's across from the smallest angle. It's across from the 30-degree angle. So we can do a quick problem here. Let's do a quick little setup. If I give you a 30, 60, 90, I'm going to make it go different. Here's my 30, 60, 90 triangle. I'm going to lay it down this way. Oops. Okay, 30, 60, 90 triangle. Let's raise that up. If I know the shortest side across from the smallest angle is 14, what's the hypotenuse? Yep, 40 or 28. Yep, how'd you get that? Times 2. So this was 14 times 2. What's the long leg? 14 times the square root of 3. You take the short leg and multiply it. I do need to draw some other ones because what if we're not given the short leg? Then we've got to do something else. So I'm going to draw another 30-60 triangle. And here's 30. What if I'm given the long leg? What if this is 10? Yep. Nope, not for the long leg. If the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3, how would I get back to the short leg? Divide by the square root of 3. This would be 10 over the square root of 3. Rationalize the denominator, times the square root of 3, times the square root of 3. I would get 10 times the square root of 3 over 3. That would be my short leg. How do I get the hypotenuse from there? What's the relationship between the short leg and the hypotenuse? Yep. What's that? I'm going up to the multiply by 2, yep. So I'd take this and multiply by 2. I get 20 times the square root of 3 over 3. That's an ugly number, isn't it? It's pretty ugly to look at, but that's okay. We don't judge, so we're okay with that. I want to draw one more and go through the process, and then we're going to do some practice. What if I'm given the hypotenuse, Jonathan? I'm going to call this 40. Now how do I get to the short leg? Now I divide by 2. Do you see the difference between the... Okay. So this would be 40 divided by 2, or 20. How do I get to the long leg? What was the rule? Times the square root of 3. So I just write that right next to it. Now, if you forget these rules, I have a picture hanging up above the today. Can you guys see that? It might be hard to read in some of your locations, just blurriness. But it gives the 45-45 rule, that the legs are the same size and the hypotenuse is times the square root of 2. And then it also gives the 30-60-90 rule. The short leg is x, the long leg is times the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is times 2. And so those are up there. If you need to take a picture of that or something at some point, go ahead and do that. But those are the rules that we're going to be using. So let's do a couple practice problems. Here's our first one. What is x? 24. Remember, to get x, I multiply the short leg by 2. What is x? 24. What is y? 12 times the square root of 3. Everything goes off of that short leg. So if I don't have the short leg, I need to get back to the short leg in order to do the math. So whatever I have, it's 12 times the square root of 3. Because I can't multiply those, I have to leave it like that. Now the biggest thing that you're going to have to watch out for is making sure that you actually have a 30-60 triangle in order to do this. On your homework, there are going to be some mixed in. You'll have some that are 30-60s, some that are 45-45s. Pay attention, bless you. Watch what you're given. So all I'm interested in this one is, what is X? Pay attention. What am I given? Am I given the hypotenuse? Am I given the long leg? Am I given the short leg? In this case, I'm given what? Hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse and the short leg are connected because the hypotenuse is twice the short leg. How am I going to get back to the short leg? I heard somebody already say the answer. Divide by 2, 18. In some problems like the next one, I'm going to have to work my way through. I'm going to have to work my way around. I can't find the hypotenuse without knowing the short leg. If I'm not given the short leg, I'm going to have to find that, figure something out. How do I get from the long leg to the short leg? What do I do with that value? How do I get there? Yep. Divide by the square root of 3. Making this one what? 4. Now I can take that and do what with it? Times it by 2. What's my answer? 8. Perfect. Sometimes I'm only going to have to find one side. Sometimes I'm going to have to do multiple steps to get there. Sometimes I'm going to be asked to find more than one side. So in our next example, I've got the long leg. How do I get to the short leg? Let's get some other people talking in here. How do I get to the short leg? What do I do? $15 divided by the square root of 3. Can I leave the answer like that? Nope, we have to rationalize the denominator. Times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. What do I end up with? Over 3. Okay, can I simplify that? Sure. What can that simplify down to? 5 times the square root of 3. Perfect. How do I get to F? Multiply it by 2. 5 times the square root of 3 times 2. So we divided by the square root of 3, and then we multiplied by 2. Remember, write up your notes so that you can look at it, look back at it, and see what you did. So when I multiply by 2, do I multiply the 5 by 2? Do I multiply the 3 by 2? Or can I not multiply anything by 2? How do I simplify that one? Just the 5. So this is 10 times the square root of 3, and our other answer was 5 times the square root of 3. Like I said earlier, sometimes you're going to have to pay attention to what you're given. When you use your rules, you can't just jump in. Just because we talked about this today doesn't mean it's the only rule out there. So if I'm solving this triangle that I have, how do I get to A? This is a 45-45 right triangle. Go for it.
9 times square root of 2.
This would be, how do I get there? What do you do to get? Divide by the square root of 2. 18 times the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. How come it's not divide by 2? What kind of triangle do I have? 45-45. The divide by 2 only works in what triangle? 30-60-90. I have 45-45. So what's my answer here? What's A? Just 18. Okay, great. So now I have A is 18. That makes this long side 18. How do I get to B? 18 divided by the square root of 3. Perfect. Can I leave it like this? Nope. Rationalize the denominator. I get 18 times the square root of 3 over 3. Can I simplify that? What does it simplify down to? 6 times the square root of 3. That goes next to that. How do I get up to C? C is the hypotenuse. How do I get up to there? Multiply it by 2. 6 times the square root of 3 times 2, or 12 times the square root of 3. So when you're working on your assignment today, you guys, again, watch out for what you have, what you're given. Be careful. Don't fall into the trap. Don't get sucked in thinking that it's all the same kind of problem. Now these problems go quick once you start finding your patterns. There's not a whole lot of math involved. So I gave you extra problems to practice because this type of rule is sort of hard to remember. If at any point you want to check and see how you're doing, just bring your paper to me and I'll give it a check, okay?
Wait. Oh, here's a new one. Okay.
So you have the first 8 are 30, 60, 90s. The first 8 of them are 30, 60, 90s. 9 and 10 are 45, 45s. 11 and 12, 45, 45s. And then 13 is back to a 30, 60, 90. 14 is a 45, 45. So watch out for those. Then you've got some practice for Pythagorean theorem, 2 Pythagorean theorems. There are no special triangles. And then you've got some practice for finding the missing or finding x and then finding the angle measure. You will work on this. What do we have class until? Today is Monday. 11:08. So we'll see how you guys are working. Maybe I'll give you about 30 minutes to work on this, and then we'll start our next activity. What's that? It depends on how much time we have, but holy crap, you're dropping everything today. Are you okay? Okay, somebody asked. Oh, okay. They won't let you do anything. Okay. Is that the book? Why is it? Yeah, you might have it actually in here. So there's always a reset option on every calculator. It's just a matter of where it is on the calculator. So Casio's has this process that you do. So you just hit Shift and then 9, and that'll clear, and then it'll ask you, do you want to clear, and you say yes, or whatever. And then, good? Okay. Yes. So this would be 9 divided by the square root of 3 gives you, no, you would actually divide it, it's actually 3 times the square root of 3. And then No, what's 3 times 2?
Oh.
That's okay. That's okay. I get what you're saying. So then you just cancel that out and you just left it the square root of 3? And then this would be just 2 times, so you just stick a 2 in front of it. Good question.
How are you doing? Are you making
Oh, look at you. Adorable. Did you just give me a look? Is it the purple glasses? Are they hard to wear? Like they make your eyes cross? Somebody said something my name. You're still recording. Oh, am I? Oops, I do that all the time. What's that? Do your best, do your best. Yeah. Okay, so that's a 45, 45. Okay, so you now, oh, 13, sorry. Yeah, okay. So you still would divide it by 2. Okay. So it looks like this. 4 times the square root of 3 over 3 divided by 2. Good. This is a complex fraction, so I might have to rewrite it. This is 4 times the square root of 3 over 3 divided by 2. Does that look a little better? This is over 1. You could either plug this in your calculator, or you can do, some calculators won't allow you to do it, some will. Or you can do 4 times the square root of 3 over 3 times 1/2. And then you can cancel. So you should end up with good? Is that processing okay? Yes, sir. So you would, yes, perfect. Yeah. So you're dividing by 2 because you have your you can just write it divided by 2. Which is like 2 over 1, right? But you don't divide by fractions, you actually multiply. So that would be, this would be 4 times 1 half. Because you remember I'm doing that one. Okay, and then you can cancel the 2 and the 4 here. I don't know. That's 1 and 2 times 3. I don't know. Good. That would be your short, that would be 1.
Well, that's what it looks like. Help, more help? I just want to hear from this right now.
Well, so this is the long way. You have to be really pay attention, yes, not the hypotenuse, so be careful, yes, a little bit careful.
Okay, so
But the other one is pretty good. Yep. Yep. Divided by the square root of 3.
Oh, that is,
Yep.
oh, so I have this right.
So that would be 4, yep, and then that perfect, you got it, you got it, you got it, yeah.
The third one is
Well,
Like, I went from,
great, okay.
to the shorter,
Well, that's not how you get the hypotenuse, and the shorter leg is if you look at your vegetarian. The hypotenuse is twice the shorter leg. So if I want to get back to that, I have to divide by 2.
Do you divide it or do you times it?
Why? I
Choose
don't
one.
understand where the square root of 2 comes from, because there's no square root of 2 in there.
Miss Rita,
It's just eight. Yeah. Well, that one was, you should divide by the square root of 3, but this one is, that was because you were given the long one. So, it might be helpful to do, if you go through, so if you have, the short leg, the long leg, the hypotenuse, okay? To get from the short leg to the long leg, it's times the square root of 3. The short leg to the hypotenuse, it's times 2. To get from the long leg to the short leg, it is divide by the square root of 3. To get from the hypotenuse to the short leg, it's divide by 2. So what you have to do is sort of fill in, are you given the short leg, the long leg, or the hypotenuse? So if the hypotenuse is 8, then to get to the short leg, it would be 4, and then to get from there to here, then I have to multiply by the square root of 3.
So that's 4.
Yep, so then I have to do 4 times the square root of 3. On the board. Okay.
So it would be like 4 square.
So it'd just be 4 square root of 3, yep. So 13.
It's finding x. We're going y. It's finding x.
Okay. So, do you want me to put in this like little box here and go through, or do you want me to just do it? Okay. So this is maybe a helpful tool. To get from the short leg to the long leg, it's times the square root of 3. To get from the short leg to the hypotenuse, it's times 2. If I want to go back, hypotenuse to short leg, divide by 2. Long leg to short leg, divide by square root of 3. So what do we know?
We know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to times the 2x.
Okay.
Times the square root of 3.
Okay. So what do you have already? Yeah, what do you have already? Do you have the short leg? Okay, that is what? 2 times the square root of 3 over 3. Great. Do you have the long leg? No. Do you have the hypotenuse? Yes. That one was given. Okay. So the only thing that I need to figure out is this guy. And I do it by multiplying by the square root of 3. So this is 2 times the square root of 3 over 3 times the square root of 3, which I'll put over 1. Okay? So that's 2 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 over 3. What's the square root of 3 times the square root of 3? Square root of 9. What's the square root of 9? 3. So this is 2 times 3 over 3. 6 over 3, or?
Yeah. Stop talking.
Okay, so that's 45, just go back to our rules from that. How do I get from here to here? That is good.
Yes, we also had a long leg to the short leg.
Long leg to the short leg is divide by the square root of 3.
So it's just 4.
That would just be 4.
And then short leg.
Short legs for hypotenuses. Good? Yep.
4 squared plus 8 squared equals X
So that's
squared.
what this like.
The one that I'm angry at.
Yes.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared, so 4 squared plus.
I can't remember. Since, like.
And so then this is
It's like.
6x plus 5x plus 127 equals 180, so 11x. You would subtract this because it's plus, so it'd be 180 minus, then it should come out as 6. So you would actually do 3 divided by the square root of 3. You'd have to do 3 divided by the square root of 3, because that's the long over the square root of 3. No, the square root of 3. Then you'll have to rationalize your denominator. Why is this? It's just that's 3 divided by the square root. Now rationalize your denominator. Meaning you multiply the top and the bottom by the other.
Because I told them also,
So that would
like I
be
told
over 3.
that I would just leave that there.
Okay, so then can I
But
anything
then
else?
my mom was thinking,
So you just like the square root of that. Okay, no, you're canceling it.
oh, okay. She's mad, but,
Okay, so now
just give her.
I need to multiply this by 2. Can I multiply the 2? Good? Okay. Hey, quiz tomorrow. Yeah. No, did I just get it? Yeah.
We all failed.
You won't fail though.
Let's
Yeah.
take a
You
vote.
won't.
Who doesn't want the quiz
No, you
tomorrow?
guys can't gang
It's
up
a
on me.
democracy.
You can't gang up on me, no.
Do it next week.
Yeah, no.
Press the
Tomorrow.
green button.
It'll be a
This
little
week is
one.
supposed to be
Press the
fun.
X if you don't.
I know, it'll be, how about this?
I just lost.
It'll be a little one and it can be a partner quiz.
Oh, yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm such a weirdo. Yeah. So you got 3 times, so this would be 3 times the square root of 3 over 3.
Okay.
Right, and then what happens to this? Great. And so you're just left with perfect, so that's why. And now you have to multiply that by 2. I didn't multiply that by 2. Yeah, that's it, just 2 times the square root of 3.
So this just.
For this one? Where do I start?
And then you multiply that by 2.
You're giving how many partners, how do you get how many partners to the short side?
Divided by the square root of 3.
No. Hypotenuse is twice the short side.
2.
Divided by 2. That's right. 4 times the square root of 3. 3 and divided by 2. Well, that's the same as multiplying this by half. So that might be a 2. So I do 4 times the square root of 3 over 3 times x. What about that? Okay. what is 2 times the square, or what is the square root of 3 times the square root? Square root of 3 times the square root. No pressure, just take your time. 3, Jacob, okay. So this is 2 times 3, what's 2 times 3? Oh, yeah.
Oh, because, 6.
6, so it's 6 over
Over 3
3.
can also be simplified.
Yep.
2 over,
Oh,
I mean, 2.
Just 2. So there's your x.
I hate that the triangles are on different sides. Because they confuse me sometimes, because when they have it as straight.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Leave it on one side.
Yes.
Don't be a greed lily.
Well, I got bored and I needed to do this because I didn't want to do these.
Oh, sure.
Sure, they're all, these are all the same, okay? So we could do 1 and you would be able to translate it to they're all gonna be the same thing. So, what is the sum of all the angles in a triangle? 180. So we would add together all the angles.
So this would cancel away, and 4 times square root.
And now combine what's 5 plus 6.
And then the answer, yeah, we'll take whatever is.
Okay.
Now
You're
Sit down.
Yes.
So,
But the only thing is, once you get your x, you're gonna have to put it back in. I want you to find what it's saying. So you'll have to put it in only this one. Yes. And there's the x. Good?
Yeah. So with these problems,
Yep.
I do like X plus. Is this okay? Along the side. Oh, okay.
okay, so after,
Okay, so
I
we
get it.
know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what do we do with that? You get to that.
I can't remember. Because there's not really an example of that.
So multiply this by 2.
So these are the 45, 45.
Yeah, but we didn't have.
No. I got 2 times 46 over 3.
You multiply by the square root.
Yeah. So if I multiply this for 2,
It is, yeah, so it'd be just like multiplying 4 by
it would be 8.
It would be.
We're not gonna do that.
And then for these ones, what do you
So the sum of all the angles in a triangle equals what?
180. So it's just review.
Yep, it's just review.
Okay.
Oh, I'm still recording, holy cow.
Yeah.
You need this bad boy, pal?